back. Glad you're along tonight. One of the men most sought after for his opinion on what's really going on with this BP Oil Catastrophe, this underwater, undersea volcano of massively jetting oil and gas, is Lindsey Williams. Lindsey has been on this program for many years now, talking about his experiences on the Trans-Alaska Pipeline as chaplain, how he got to sit in the boardroom with the movers and shakers of the world, the top chiefs of the various oil companies which formed the consortium that built the Alaska Pipeline. Lindsey was privy to some extraordinary information, and he has detailed that in the past. He, of course, as most of you know, has kept a relationship with one of the top gentlemen in that field over the many years since he's been up there working on the pipeline. And that man has provided Lindsey with some staggering information, all of which has come true. Now, many of you are saying, Jeff, get Lindsey back on the program. I'm pleased to announce that Lindsey Williams is back with us tonight. And Lindsey, thank you so much for taking time to be here. I'm glad you're along, and I can't wait to discuss this problem with you.
Thank you, Jeff, for allowing me the privilege of being with you tonight at such an exciting time in history. I am so glad I'm living today to watch all of these events unfold.
Oh, it's wild. It's not boring. It's tragic. It's catastrophic. It's beyond criminal, but it's not boring. That's for sure.
There's never a dull moment, and I know that your listeners are knowledgeable because you give them so much good information day after day, and after the show tonight, I think they'll even be more knowledgeable, and I just appreciate you letting me be here to give you an idea of what I feel is taking place out there in the Gulf of Mexico. It is catastrophic.
It is. Let's do something. Let's take a little mind's eye flight over the Gulf oil slick now. Oil slick, it's worse than a slick, with a couple of gentlemen who went up and took a view. It's up at the top of featured stories at Rense.com if you want to see the pictures. But I think their voices tell quite a story, and I want you to listen just to a minute or so of this, and we'll get right back with Lindsey.
In 2010, John Watson and pilot Tom Hutchins flew out over the Gulf of Mexico. Along the way, we saw small boats dragging buoys out to the islands to protect them from the oil sheen that was certainly coming our way. At 9 miles out, we began to smell the oil. At 11 miles out, we saw a visible sheen on top of the water. Heavy streaking was evident at about mile 15. Mile 26, we began to see solid oil on top of the water with a heavy sheen and numerous streaks at mile 34. Mile 87, ground zero. My first view of the site was one of tremendous impact. I'll never forget the scene. These are not small boats. While standing at a dock looking at them, they look like large ships. They're dwarfed in comparison to what I see on the horizon. Nothing but a red mass of floating goo that could have been prevented and should have been prevented. I was horrified when I looked and saw how many boats there were on the horizon. It didn't seem to be doing anything at all that was effective. Going around in circles, small boats with booms on the back of them, sent out to gather up oil in what looked like teacups compared to the horizon.
You have to take a look at this video when you get a chance. We'll stop it right there, but I think you get the idea. It is truly a horrifying scene. I was in Santa Barbara in 1967 when they had the oil blowout there in the offshore rig that I forgot the name of it. At any rate, I watched them clean that up. I watched the oil come on shore. I watched the birds die. I watched the wildlife die. I watched the efforts of people trying to clean it up. That was a gnat on an elephant compared to what's going on in the Gulf of Mexico now. Lindsey, what are they doing out there drilling so deeply? Why is it necessary? How deep were they supposed to drill? How deep into the earth itself did they penetrate after passing through 5,000 feet, almost a mile of ocean water? Give us the particulars as you understand them, please.
Jeff, there positively was no reason for this whatsoever. They were doing something that has no reasonable rhyme or reason
Mm-hmm.
They were trying something that even modern-day science could not contain. And this is an outrage. It should never have taken place. Well, let's just take a few items. First of all, they were drilling in 5,000 feet water. The drill rig itself, the platform, was sitting in 5,000 feet. They were drilling, and they drilled down. Now, please, notice this. This is about the altitude that above the Earth a modern-day jet aircraft travels.
Uh-huh.
They drilled down approximately 30,000 feet into the crust of the Earth. This is unthinkable.
Look up at an airliner that looks like the size of a grain of rice, and then cut that grain of rice in half, and you'll have an idea of what maybe 25,000 feet looks like. That's how deep this was.
Yeah, about between 30 and 35,000 feet is where the modern-day jet aircraft that you would travel in with any one of the airlines would go, and they were that deep underneath the Earth, below the 5,000-foot depth on which the rig itself was sitting. Now, this is on the edge of human technology. This time they hit a pocket of oil with such high pressure that it burst all of their safety valves. The pressure behind this oil is so high that it destroyed the maximum effort of human science to contain it. Now, in order to try to explain this, let me go to something that the Russians did just a few years ago. In fact, in 2004, the Russians drilled what they call Kola SG-3 wells. They drilled it to the deepest that any human drilling rig has ever gone. They went to 40,230 feet, but they were on the land. And if anything had happened, the oil spill could have contained within the land. Here, BP Oil Company was attempting to do this in the ocean. They were attempting to do very much like what the Russians did in going down into a strata of oil that no one has ever drilled into prior to the Russians doing it. And they found something all right. They sure did. They found something they didn't expect. And that oil is coming out at the rate right now, flowing out of that open well down in 5,000 feet water, somewhere in the neighborhood of 200,000 barrels per day. Mm-hmm. That's over 1 million barrels of crude oil per week that is going out into that ocean. And in my lifetime especially, this will never be cleaned up.
Agreed. There is so much going on behind the scenes. We're not getting the full story. I'm not sure we're getting 2/3 of the story, frankly. Why did they drill there? Why did they pick that location? Now, you heard Jay Widener last night talk about 120 degrees parallel, the same, apparently, as the Great Pyramid sits upon. Why? Accidental? Coincidence? You can go out there and get into some pretty eclectic areas of explanations. Let's just keep it down on the ground for right now, though. Workers aboard that now sunken, exploded drilling platform were told to sign statements denying they were hurt or that they had witnessed the explosion that rocked the rig, killed 11, and spewed the oil, the beginning of it, into the ocean. So they were leaned on from day one. These men are told that they have to sign these statements or they can't go home, said Tony Busby, a Houston-based attorney for 10 Transocean workers. I think it's pretty callous, but I'm not surprised by it. I'd say it's more than calloused, Lindsay. I'd say there's a big cover-up underway right off the bat.
Well, first of all, I can readily understand why there was such an explosion. Now, so that the listening audience will just briefly understand why you called me tonight and asked me to be on your show in relation to this. I was the official assigned chaplain to the Trans-Alaska Oil Pipeline. I watched them drill the wells at Prudhoe Bay, Alaska, on America's large oil field there in Alaska. As a result, for 3 years' time, I was the chaplain to the elite of the world, the people you hear about in the World Bank and the IMF.
Yeah.
Lived with them in the same dorms at Prudhoe Bay.